There we go. Now we've got sound. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Trucking with Authority. I'm your host, Kenny Long, and for the next hour, consider me your navigator on your journey to success in business. Hello, hello. Wow, okay, so it looks like I went through a whole lot of stuff there. I'm going to just start over. I'm not sure what happened. Got notice that we had no sound. I need go, no go on the sound. All right, are we go on the sound on YouTube? There we go. I was putting together some materials for this show. Hopefully we are good to go now. There's audio only at the phone number. Okay, so those of you that called, you get to listen to my spiel all again. Those of you on YouTube, we're going to go from the beginning. Again, welcome to the show. This is Trucking with Authority. For the next hour, consider me your navigator. I guess it's an hour and 5 minutes now because we're already that far into the show. We're going to talk about sales tonight. We talk about a lot of different things. We talk about negotiation and haggling and tactics and scenarios there with with negotiation quite often here on Trucking with Authority, but we rarely talk about the bigger picture of sales. When it comes to sales, there is a lot to know. The last week here at Patriot Star, we had 2 of our full-time broker agents, 1 of our top producing drivers, all of our office staff, all in-house here, and we brought in an outside trainer to try to sharpen our sales skills and to get some new systems in place here in our company. Now, I do this show to try to help you all, and hopefully you can use some of this material to sharpen your own skills. But even I, and no matter what level you're at on that totem pole, sometimes you need to refresh your skills. When you're out there, and you might be the sharpest salesman in the drawer, but over time, that edge gets dulled down, just like the best blade you have, and sometimes you have to put the edge back on. So I encourage you, no matter what level you're at, get out there and get more training. Even if it's just refresher training, it's always helpful to stay on top of all of your training and all of your skills to make sure that you don't get dull. It happens to the best of us. It happens to me. I've been at this a long time. I teach it. I help others with it, but I still find myself sometimes getting a little dull, needing a little hone here and there. And I always learn new stuff. Even if it's a refresher course, I always learn new stuff, new approaches, new ideas, new concepts, a new twist on some of the things that I may have already known. It's always good to get out there and learn that. Now, here on this show, and as far as I know, none of the other shows out there, even on the satellite radio or on YouTube or Facebook, none of these groups, there are freight broker groups, there are carrier groups, none of them talk about actual sales. Now, there are tons of people right now, tons. I can't even imagine it. It's mind-boggling how many people are saying that they want to get into freight broker work of some sort. What that means is you better know how to sell. And I'll tell you what, most people that are trying to get into this right now, they just don't. I mean, fact of the matter is, everybody thinks it's easy, and it's not. Had one of our drivers in here, kind of had that thought. He thought that, you know, this isn't that hard. We make some phone calls, we talk to some people, it'll be easy. And he sat right here in this chair. I let him use my desk. He sat right here and he said, it's not as easy as it looks. Sat here all day on Friday making some phone calls, trying to reach out to contacts. Some of them cold calls, some people that he had already known. And it's not as easy as it looks, and he saw that firsthand. We have 2 full-time broker agents that are making calls and calls and calls and calls. And it's not, I mean, you would think that you make thousands of calls, you have thousands of customers. It doesn't work that way. We're going to talk about the process, how it should work, the basic fundamentals of sales. Now, I had 5 full days of this, intense. We had practice, we had role play, we had all kinds of stuff. This is about an hour-long free podcast, free YouTube video that I'm doing. If you have anything you'd like to comment on or add, anything, 917-889-9924 is the phone number. Call now. We have a call screener. Elizabeth is in the other room taking the calls. Let me move some stuff around here so I can make sure that we have everything we need to get started with this tonight. All right, I'm just checking here. I know we had a lot of sound issues. Looks like we're good to go now. Let's see. I can't read lips. I'm sorry about that. Glad I know sign language. Okay, and I just want to make sure we're good. So, what I would like to know is, if you are a freight broker now, what does your day-to-day operations look like? If you are a salesperson in any industry, or if you have been a salesperson in any industry, how easy was it? Did you find it super easy? just make a couple phone calls and you've got customers. How many salespeople out there, and I invite you to call in, I would love to hear from you. How easy did you find it? What was your day-to-day life like? Were you sitting behind a desk? The common thing is, well, they've got a phone, a fax machine, and a computer. That's all they've got. That's all you need to be a freight broker. They don't have anything invested. If you are a freight broker, I'd love to hear your stories. So please call the number at the bottom of your screen, 917-889-9924. We're streaming live on YouTube. We're shared all over Facebook, and we are live on Blog Talk Radio. Let me put this disclaimer out. I usually do this first, but we got a little distracted with some of the technical glitches today. If you are watching the YouTube stream while you are driving, please stop it. You can come back and listen when you're stopped, or even better, call in now, the number 917-889-9924. Once you're on, you can listen live. You have to press 1 if you have anything to add. That'll raise your hand, get you in the green room. Elizabeth will screen your call, and we can get you on the air. We have several callers on the line already. And we've got several people watching on the stream as well. All right, so I'm going to move things around a bit here. The name of the game is sales. Now, what I think a lot of people need to understand is that sales, the word sales, encompasses a lot of different stuff, okay? It's not just making some phone calls and you get the sale. There's a lot that happens in that process. Sales, that one single word, actually encompasses a lot of what we talk about on the show, but there's a lot more to it. Within sales, the overall umbrella of sales is marketing. The number one piece of sales, the most important thing that you can do, is marketing. Now, there are people that have business degrees specialized in marketing. Marketing is the number one thing that you must know how to do if you are going to be in sales. If you are going to go out and get direct freight, you need to learn marketing. That is the key word here. Now, this is the one thing that we don't talk about. This is a few levels above negotiation. On this show, we talk all about negotiation. We talk a lot about the different techniques and tactics that you can use, and those things are super important, and the basic principles behind them are in the entire sales process. But marketing is something that we do not talk about nearly enough on this show, because most drivers that watch this show, most are working off of load boards, and they are not doing sales. They are skipping, and they have basically outsourced their sales department. Now, hear me on this. If you work with brokers, you have outsourced your sales department to a third party. That's what a broker does for a carrier. They are a third-party sales consultant. They go out and sell on your behalf as a carrier. They find the freight. They go talk to the shippers, receivers, and other benefiting parties, and they make the pitch. They do the selling for you. You skip that, and you go right to negotiations. You hire them, and now you're just haggling over the money and negotiating over the terms and conditions that the brokers have a little control over, because they have done the marketing. They have done all of the above, but they have, you as the carrier, skipped all that, and you focused solely on the basics of negotiation. That is way down the list of important things to do if you are going to run a business. Now, most other businesses in any other industry need to understand the whole sales process, and just about every other business, the first thing they do is develop a huge, very thorough marketing strategy. So let me ask you, if you are a carrier, or you are a broker, or you are new to this industry and you think it'll be easy, let me ask you, in your business plan, and I've talked about that on other shows, before you do anything, you really should have a business plan. In your business plan, how strong, right here, how strong is your marketing strategy? How strong is marketing in your business plan? Do you know how to do it? Do you know what it even means to be marketing your business? So following the marketing is the selling. Now notice it's not sales, it's selling. You might call it pitching. Pitching your services. This is what you see on the infomercials with the sham wow. He's showing you how great it is. He's showing you all the problems it will solve. He is doing the selling portion. Of course, an infomercial in and of itself is part of the marketing. Notice how the selling happens within the marketing in an infomercial. This all funnels into each other. Marketing is super important. Sales and selling is super important, and pitching your product or services is super important. Followed by negotiations. Once you make the pitch and you're selling the product, then you start talking about money. Then they decide to buy and you start negotiations. Now that is the part where most of us start. Most of us in the trucking business, especially if you're working with brokers or under another carrier, you start with negotiations. And then behind negotiations is haggling. Now, negotiations are all the terms and conditions. And then haggling is just, give me $1 more for this, and I'll give you a little bit more for that. Back and forth, haggling over the money. Now, those are the basic principles, the basic outline of the sales process. And in this show, I don't have a whole lot of time to go any much further in depth than that. We've got marketing, selling, or pitching the product or service, negotiations on the terms and conditions, and then haggling over the money. Of those, what do you think is the most important? So we already know about negotiations and haggling. We talk about that in other episodes. So let's focus just on the two big ones, marketing and selling. I have to periodically look back and forth between the different screens here, so bear with me while I do that. Now, here's something that's interesting. Sometimes 7 to 10 no's before the yes, persistence. We're going to come back to that. Pamela B. from YouTube says sometimes there's 7 to 10 no's before the yes, and persistence. And obviously, persistence does pay off. We're going to get to that. Let's see what I got to do to get back to scrolling here. So what is marketing overall? By and large, what is marketing? And why do you need to do it? I think this is something where people get lost. What is this process? Why? What are we doing? And some people, drivers, I know for a fact, are missing this mark big time. Big time. How many of you, again, have that marketing strategy in place and throw out some ideas of what it is you're actually doing? Columbia Glider Dave, which happens to be the driver that was sitting in this seat last week, says marketing is most important. You need visibility and credibility in the market, which is absolutely true. What is marketing? Who can tell me anything about Coca-Cola? There are people that collect Coca-Cola bottles from 50 years ago. They've got the red color. They've got the nice scripted writing. They've got the logo. Everybody knows what Coca-Cola is. I don't think there's anybody that would be confused if you showed them a Coca-Cola can or you just showed them a drawing of the Coca-Cola script. I'm pretty sure everybody could tell you exactly what that product is. They could tell you all about it. They could tell you where they have it, what they like about it, which flavors they like. They could tell you everything because of the marketing. How many of you watch the Super Bowl and see the Budweiser commercials? They're always some of the best ones. There are commercials out there where I remember one of the Super Bowls a few years back after 9/11, the Clydesdales go stomping up through New York City, and they just bow to the memorial there in New York City. Didn't say anything about the brand. It didn't say anything about the product. They just had some horses walking across the screen. Everybody knew it was Budweiser because of marketing. Let me scroll through here. I have to find the... All right, if you have any questions or comments, we have a few callers on the line. The number's at the bottom of the screen. I implore you, please call in. It makes for a much better show, especially for those that are listening and not watching. So marketing is basically, it gets your name out there. Again, everybody knows who Budweiser is when they see a Clydesdale pulling a red carriage. Everybody knows who Coca-Cola is when they see some scripted writing on a red background. I'd imagine everybody knows the Cadillac logo or the Mercedes logo. There are products out there that the marketing speaks for itself. There are people that buy products on marketing alone. There are people that buy services on products alone. Marketing means everything. If your marketing is good enough, the next step that we talked about, selling, doesn't even have to happen. Your marketing does it for you. Your marketing, in some cases, again, you don't even have to talk about what your product actually is. Your marketing is so good, people will buy it anyway. The Budweiser horses walking across the screen, in those commercials, some of them, they don't even say what the product is. But it gets people excited about it. And they will buy it anyway. Coca-Cola, same thing. There are companies out there that once your marketing is so good, they perpetuate that marketing for you. I know people that have entire house, basements and game rooms and things decorated in Coca-Cola theme. Their whole house is that way. They've got checkered red and white tiles. They've got red Coca-Cola logos. They've got these people are marketing for them. They're not even getting paid to do it. They just think their marketing is so cool that they want it to be a part of their house. They want it to be a part of their life. So again, how much marketing are you doing? Now, don't tell me that marketing doesn't matter in the transportation business, because I will ask you one question. Tell me what you think of when you see an orange trailer rolling down the road. And tell me that they haven't done some marketing. That's right, Schneider. Everybody knows a Schneider truck when they see that orange trailer rolling down the road. Most people would recognize a TMC truck. Most people recognize Prime trailers. Of course, they got that big word Prime on the side, but that's all part of marketing. So that gets some of the ideas out there. Marketing is huge. It makes you known to the public, because unless you are putting your name out there, nobody knows who you are. And if nobody knows who you are, who is going to buy something from you? Who is going to pay you to haul the freight? If you never hear from somebody, are you just going to shell some money out and think that that's the person I want to hire? That's the person I want to talk to. That's the person I want to give my money to handle my business. I'm a manufacturer of some high quality goods. I need to get them on the store shelves. I'm going to hire somebody I've never heard of to do it for me. Sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? It gets your backwards here. It gets your name out. It makes you known to your client or your customer. It establishes the first contact. A lot of people think that when they pick up and make that first call, that's your first contact. No. Ideally, when you pick up the phone, the person on the other line already knows who you are, because your marketing is that good. You have targeted your marketing. You have put marketing out there so people recognize you before you even introduce yourself. It establishes first contact. Now, let's go back a little bit. I will say that everybody is marketing their business in one way or another. How many drivers out there post their truck on a load board. That's a form of marketing. That gets your name out there. Granted, it's very simple and basic, but it is a way to say, hey, I'm a trucking company. I'm available. I've got a truck. I'm established as a carrier. I've already qualified to use this load board. That is some form of marketing. As simple as it is, it's marketing. Is that all you're doing? Those of you that said you're not doing any marketing, and I know there are some of you, have you even considered that that is a form of marketing? Once people know who you are, they have entered your sales funnel. We'll talk about what a sales funnel is here in a few minutes. The goal of marketing is to get people involved in your company at some level, whether they buy from you or not. If they don't buy from you, you want them talking about you. I just told you a story about Budweiser horses. Some of you probably got thirsty. I told you a story about Coca-Cola. Some of you probably got thirsty. Some of you probably are sitting in your truck and took a big swig of that Coca-Cola. Hopefully you're not in the truck, took a big swig of Budweiser, but maybe when you get home, because I brought it up. I am already in the sales funnel for those companies, and I am helping them. I've talked about how people have their whole house decorated in those brands. They're in the funnel, and they are expanding the funnel. They are helping other people get in the funnel. The goal of marketing is to snare people into your sales funnel, which is something that you have to continue the process. So how do you do it? I already mentioned a couple of things, and now there are so many ways to market. There are tons of things that you can do, countless things that you can do. Obviously, some of them are as basic as posting your truck on a load board. But what else can you do? How many of you have business cards? How many of you have a business card that you leave with customers? Whether it's a shipper or receiver, maybe you got them through a broker. How many of you sent your broker your business cards? A broker is a customer. Have you looked at your broker like a customer? Have you developed the relationship with your customer, the broker? Big Rich says marketing creates an image, and what I'm talking about with the horses and the Coca-Cola logo, that's more branding. But and he says that's the beauty of marketing. It encompasses so much, and that's absolutely true. We're going to talk about that next. Under business cards, logos. How many of you have a logo? Again, that's part of branding, part of marketing. How many of you have a logo? How many of you recognize other companies' logos? I'm pretty sure that if I threw a JB Hunt sticker up, you would recognize it. Pretty sure if I threw that Prime label up, you would all recognize it. You've all recognized the orange trailers. Again, that's part of branding. Branding falls under marketing. It's all part of getting your company known and recognized. You want everybody to know who you are before you call them, and marketing gets your name out there. So throw some business cards out, and your business card should have a logo on it. And your logo should set you apart. Now, Patriot Star, we get a lot of comments about our logo. I've gone back and forth. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I think it could use improvement. It's basic, but it's effective. I don't think there's any other company with a logo like it. I think, and let me throw it up there. It is on our business cards. And that green screen is fading it out here. But it is on our business cards. The logo, the name, the phone number, the signs on the truck doors. We try to put this on every truck. Of course, they're owner-operators. We're not going to force them. But having this logo out there makes our company recognizable. Simple and easy tools building a website. If you don't have a website, it is 2018. We're a few weeks away from 2019. You need a website. Very, very few companies have a website, trucking companies. And I understand 1 or 2 trucks, you don't see the value in a website. And that might be the case. But I would implore you, again, even if it's just a simple landing page with your logo and some phone numbers, you should have a website. I talked about the importance of having a website in some of the other episodes about how you can put your rules circular on there. You can put some documents on there that you might need on the road or that your customers might need. You can put your fuel surcharge program on there. It allows exposure of your company to the world. It's a way, if you put your logo on your website, and I'm vanishing here, it looks like. But if you put your logo on your website and then you push your website out to everybody, as many people as possible, it's easy for that person to click on a couple of letters and they've got everything they need to know about your company. Simple, complex, and granted, our website, it was essentially a landing page for several years, and we've started to update it. PatriotStar.net is our website. It's basic, but it does the job, and it gets people interested, and it gets people in the door and into that sales funnel. Now, this one is something we're going to talk a little bit more about. This is the hard part, cold calls. Now, whether you're making cold calls on the phone in person, your first contact on the phone, or you go to somebody in person, both of those are cold calls. You walk in the door, hello, I'm Kenny Long. You introduce yourself. That's a cold call. That's part of marketing. Now, this is entering the selling portion. You're trying to get in there and you're trying to sell. But essentially, marketing, what are you doing? You're getting your name known. When you make that phone call, the first contact, maybe they've never seen your logos before. Maybe they've never heard of you before. But you make that phone call, now they have heard of you. That first phone call should be considered marketing. We're going to get into cold calls here in a few minutes. Obviously, next to cold calls is emails. Now, with emails, it could be your first contact. You could put it out there and say, hi, I'm Kenny with so-and-so, and I would like to move your freight. Maybe you get a response from that, but at least now they know who you are. If you can get some email information, and if you can get them to subscribe to some type of a sales funnel email, such as the MailChimp type, and most of you have gotten those in your email, if you can push out emails that are marketing materials, and now the frequency gets you in the door and gets you known and starts to build your brand, and when you call them all of a sudden, and maybe if you study a little bit of psychology behind marketing, when you look at an email, if you send somebody an email maybe weekly, monthly, quarterly, and you do that over a period of time, maybe they get ticked off and they unsubscribe. But guess what? 6 months, a year, 2 years from now, you call that same contact and you introduce yourself. In the back of their mind, they have heard of you. They think that, you know what? I remember seeing something. It was a long time ago, but I remember seeing something about this company, and I remember it being really good. I don't remember if it was a peer review. I don't remember if it was another customer, but I remember this company, and they were good. I think I'll use them. Emails can be huge. It can drive people to your website. It absolutely gets them in your sales funnel, gets you known. It's an easy, cost-effective way to get your name out there. Oh, y'all can see my mouse. Cool. So this is the $1 million question, right? How do I sell? And if I'm not getting questions, I'm switching between screens here. I've got obviously the presentation up, and I've got the phones up, and I've got YouTube up here. So bear with me. I'll swap between them a few times and see what you guys are saying. Looks like we do have a question on the line. If Elizabeth wants to go ahead and screen that call, we'll bring that caller online here in a few minutes. And looks like Loshan Park stopped in. I want to plug his channel. On Tuesdays, he is doing a freight and rates show. He's pretty thorough with it. He talks about DAT. He's giving some information about the market. He's talking about where you should position your trucks. Check out his channel, Trucking with Loshan Parks on YouTube. He's got some great information over there. All right, we'll come back to this here. How do I sell? The $1 million question. Everybody wants to know, how do I sell? How do I sell? And I'll tell you what, it's a teachable skill, but you have to be teachable. You have to know, you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. And there are probably a million books about it, and not a single one of them is going to tell you how to do it. It's a process. It's a learned skill. And what I mean by that is, I could write a book on how to ride a bike. I could give a seminar on how to ride a bike. I could do this whole podcast, an hour long, tell you how to ride a bike. After you read the book, after you go to my seminar, and after you watch my podcast, and after you talk to all your friends, you will not know how to ride a bike, because you have to get out there and practice, and you have to learn a little bit hands-on. That's how sales is. That's how selling is. Learning to be a salesperson is kind of like riding a bike. There is a knack to it. There's some things that you just can't learn by listening. You have to get out there and do it. You have to practice. You have to try. Some people are naturals at talking to people, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're naturals at selling stuff. Some people are natural at building relationships, but it doesn't mean they're naturals at selling. Some people are naturals at selling, and they suck at all that other stuff, and it doesn't make any sense. Everybody's got a process. Everybody's got their own way of doing things. When I was a kid, a friend of mine, he learned how to ride a bike, but he never used training wheels. He jumped right on and he was after it. I met other people that they had to learn and progress their way up. It's kind of how sales is. You either have to learn and be teachable and be willing to try and be willing to fail, or you have to get out there and just give it all it's got and hope it catches. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. Our driver, Columbia Glider Dave, who's in the house tonight, he was here. He thought he knew how to ride a bike. He thought he could do sales. Granted, he knew he had to learn a few things. That's why he was here. But he made some phone calls, and again, after making a few calls, he said, this is harder than it looks. Because it's like riding a bike. You've got to learn. Now, once you learn, where it's different than riding a bike is once you learn, you have to stay sharp. You have to stay on it. That's what I started with this video with. Once you learn how to sell, you have to stay on top of it. You have to maintain your industry knowledge. You have to maintain your relationships. You have to maintain your friendships. You have to maintain your style. One thing where people fall into some traps is they learn and they're out of the gates and they're doing strong and they've got their sales pitch down. Maybe they've got it scripted and they know exactly what to say and they get comfortable with it. And they go out there and they make a sale. They go out the next time and they make a sale. They go out the next time and they make a sale. And they do this over and over and over. Pretty soon, people get bored saying the same thing and they change their story. They change their script. They change what they're saying. They change what they're doing. They change how they do it. And all of a sudden, they're not selling anymore. So it's time to pick up a book, time to go to a seminar, time to watch a show like this, time to hire a sales trainer to come into your office. It's time to get refreshed on your skills. How do I sell? So, does that answer your question? I'm not going to be able to tell you the answer to that. But I will help you understand the process. First step, identify your client. Identify who you're trying to sell to. Sounds easy. How do you identify your client? What do you do? Who is your perfect client? Have you given it any thought on who your perfect client would be? We have heard people, remember, that started at the negotiation level. It skipped sales, skipped marketing, skipped all that, went right to negotiation. They got out there and They're getting after it with their customer. They're getting after it with their broker or their shipper receiver. They're doing their thing, and then something goes wrong, and they want to fire their customer. Some of you have heard that term. Let's fire our customer. Now, on this side, we get into identify your client. You're getting out there. Do you want to hire a client, hire a customer that is not qualified, that is not identified, and I'm skipping ahead of myself a little bit, that's not somebody that you want to have with you? Somebody that you will have to fire later. So let me ask you this. Would you hire a driver to work for you knowing that they do not meet your qualifications and knowing that next week or 2 weeks or a month from now, you will have to fire that particular driver? Maybe their safety score isn't bad. Maybe their financial history, you can't trust them with money, maybe whatever the case may be, but you know right up front that they are not a good fit for you. Do you think it's a good idea or a bad idea to hire that driver? Same with clients. First, who is your ideal client? Second, are they qualified? Now, sometimes you have to understand who your ideal client is first to know if they're qualified. The last thing you want to do is spend weeks, months, even years trying to build a relationship with a potential client, a potential customer, only to find out that they ship UPS. They ship parcel post. They don't need truckloads. They're not qualified for you. Once you've identified who your client is, identified who your client base should be, you qualified them by knowing that they meet the financial liability limits and qualifications. They meet the needs of what you are willing to provide. Somebody that ships 4 or 5 letters every week, you call them up on the cold call. I'd like to handle all of your shipping needs. Oh, great. We're looking for a new shipper. Can we get your information? Oh, yeah, I'll send it all over right now. You're going to spend an hour doing that. And then you call them back. Okay, I'm going to send a truck over right now. Oh, okay. I've got all 5 letters. I already got stamps on them. Wait a minute. Did we forget to qualify our client? Did we forget that step? So we have to understand who our clients are and then qualify the client. Then, of course, we have to market to that client. Budweiser runs their commercials on the Super Bowl because the majority of people that watch the Super Bowl are probably going to be potential customers for Budweiser. Most often, the majority are males between a certain age. You've got females between a certain age. They're mostly qualified already. They are willing and they're wanting to buy the product. Those are the people they're marketing to. You don't see a lot of Budweiser commercials on the Teletubbies. Okay? Between the Teletubbies commercials, you don't see a lot of Clydesdales that work for Budweiser. Because that would be the wrong client. They're not qualified. The 3-year-olds aren't going out to buy Budweiser. Who are your clients if you own a trucking company? And how can you identify them and then qualify them? We're going to go ahead and take this phone call quick before we have the occasional phone outage here. We're going to go to, hopefully we're going to go there. Stuart in Florida, what's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing, Kenny? Just the marketing thing, right? Actually, the whole process. So before I started my my transportation company, I worked for a big commercial HVAC and refrigeration in their sales department. So it's sort of in my wheelhouse a little bit this. But with the marketing, I mean, I think people have to also realize there's 2 types of marketing out there. I mean, you've got your direct marketing, which, you know, is going to be you're sending them a letter or a Christmas card. And then you have your indirect marketing, which is, you know, it could be you send them a pen and the pen's in their hand every day and they see that logo like you talk about. And, you know, it's burned into their image subconsciously, you know. So, you know, that's a big difference, understanding, you know, what the difference is between the 2. It's funny, I'm sat at a truck stop here in Georgia and there's about 20 trucks in front of me. Every single one of them's white and you can't distinguish who's who. I understand there's probably, financial reasons for that, but they're not making a name for themselves and not doing that marketing, Like you go back to the orange trailer thing, everyone knows
Absolutely.
that Schneider, that's indirect marketing, So, I mean, that's a big thing, If it's just little things, if you're indirect marketing, sending a Christmas card with a little pen inside, so that pen's going to be in their hand, throughout the year, hopefully, So that the marketing thing, that's a big thing. But when it comes to the sales, someone told me one time, you go back to the identifying your customer and then qualifying them. I mean, and that's a big thing that a lot of people confuse. It's
Yes.
not the same thing. It's a big difference between, and a lot of people get confused with that, thinking it's the same thing. And it's totally different. But once you actually are in that sales process and talking to them, and you're presenting what you have to offer, it doesn't matter what you think. I remember one time I got in a slump, and I was like, I could sell ice to an Eskimo. And then my boss comes up to me, he goes, it doesn't matter what you're saying, Stuart, and what you think. It's what your client's thinking and what they're understanding. And we went back to the basics of the sales process, and he described it to me as walking down a corridor, right? And you have all these objections that you have to get through. And as you walk down that hallway, you're closing these doors till you get to the end, and then you're closed. And if you skip one of them along the way, guess what? You're going to find yourself running back through the corridor, potentially losing a sale.
Absolutely,
now, I know that's
yes.
probably jumping ahead a little bit, but that, to keep it simple, that's what we're doing, is when you're qualifying, and identifying your customers and so on. It's an ongoing process, until you get to that corridor, the end of that corridor, and you've got them. They have to give you an answer. Hey, we're not going to do business with you. You're not going to fit for us. Or, that's the only real answer that someone should have for you. And I mean, objection is not a bad thing. You just, for some reason you guys can't meet each other's needs. So I mean, that's the only thing that really should ever come out at the end process. It's either no or yes, And I mean, I can go a lot deeper
And
into
no
it, but
never really means
like
no. No means not right now.
Oh, true. I mean, true. Yeah, no, I mean, no. I mean, I've had it 10 times, But it was I call it a smoke no. Sometimes it's because you've left a door open, and then maybe not understanding something, or don't realize you forgot to mention something, and they don't realize you offer that service, And so, there's been plenty of times where I've, keep going back, follow up, and then finally you get to the bottom of what they need and what you can provide for them, and that's the big thing, it's that, marketing, the sales thing, it all goes hand in hand, and it's very important. But I think that's, why a lot of, how do I put this? In this industry specifically, this is the only industry in the world that I can think of that you can start up business today and you never have to advertise. I can't think of another industry off the top of my head that you can do this.
Absolutely.
I mean, unless you can think of something. But to me, that, I think that we get bad habits because of that as an industry.
This is an industry full of bad habits.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, is when you've almost been gifted something on a plate and you don't have to work for your client. You can just make a phone call. It's, hey, I want to book this load. It creates a lot of bad habits and bad attitudes as well, So, yeah, I mean, that's really about it, all I can say about it without going into too much depth.
And that's really it. We could go on all day long. Like I said, I had somebody here I paid to come in for 5 full days, and this is the kind of stuff we talked about for 5 days. We can go on and on and on for 5 days and never explain all of it. And we're trying to help people understand. And honestly, the reason that I did this show is over the past several weeks, or even past several months, so many people are thinking, I'm going to go be a freight broker. I'm going to sell my truck and be a freight broker. Or people that have no idea anything about the industry. I see there's money in a freight, to be a freight broker, and they're going to jump in. They have no idea what they're doing. So many people right now, and they think it's easy.
They're only seeing the top of the iceberg. All the work that's underneath the water is 5 times bigger, and they're only seeing the little tip at the top, which is the money. And that's the problem. And the funny thing, what I find almost amusing, is our customers, who are the freight brokers and the brokerages, are marketing to us. I get these emails every day. Hey, I have this load here, and it should be the other way around.
Absolutely, everything should be the other way around.
To me, boggles my mind. It boggles my mind. Absolutely boggles my mind.
I'm with you. I'm with like that. This whole process is backwards. When you, as a driver, or I'm sorry, let's back up. Take your four-wheeler, your car, to a muffler shop. You don't tell them how much you're going to pay to get your muffler fixed. They are the one providing the service. They give you the quote, and they tell you what the cost would be. Here in this industry, somehow, people in the drivers, the first thing they ask is, what are you paying? That would be like the muffler shop saying, what are you willing to pay me to fix your car? It is very, very backwards. And because of that backwards ideology about how this business works, it funnels, it goes right up through how they think sales and marketing should work. They think that the brokers should be marketing to them because that's how the rest of the business works. It's backwards. And in some ways, it's by design. In some ways, I've said it before, a driver starts, they get in, they have a company driver, their company assigned truck, they deliver a load, they scan the paperwork at a truck stop. At the end of the week, they get a paycheck. They decide they want to lease a truck. So they lease a truck from the same company, oftentimes even the same truck they were already driving. All they've done is assume the payments. They deliver a load, they go to the truck stop, they scan the paperwork, and they get a paycheck at the end of the week. They buy a truck, they lease to another carrier. They do everything the same way. They deliver a load, they scan some paperwork or mail paperwork in. At the end of the week, they get a settlement or a paycheck. They get their own authority, and they only work with brokers, and they deliver a load, they scan the paperwork, and they expect a paycheck, and so many of them are so used to it. This is why factoring companies are even in business in the freight market, because they plan on scanning the paperwork and getting a paycheck at the very next day or very next week. They want that money instantly because that's the way they've always done it, because it's backwards. The whole business is completely upside down, and if you can learn how to sell and learn it from the top down instead of the bottom up, you can really start to excel, and that's what you have to do. And this is why I did this show tonight, is to explain that there are a lot more intricacies to sales and to the marketing, to the whole process, than most people even take into consideration.
Yeah. I mean, any other industry, I mean, everyone would be out. If you took everyone that was in business for themselves and put them in any other industry, they probably wouldn't last 2 months. If they took the mentality they had in this industry and took it somewhere else, I mean, it just doesn't work like that.
And
I mean, it's almost like you're skipping steps, right? You're pretty much gone from kindergarten to the last year of high school, and you've skipped the middle.
Right.
And it creates all these bad habits,
Absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and put you back on hold so I can get back to this. But, the concept that I just explained about you deliver the paperwork or the load, you do the paperwork, you get paid, you move on up, and the process never changes all the way up. If the process of what you do never changes, the only thing that changes is now you own the truck and you're making payments and you've got the financial responsibility. You don't own a business, you own a job. And if you want to get out of owning a job, learn how to do this process that we're talking about here. Learn sales. This is what sets somebody that owns a job apart. Because once you can do this and you have clients coming in and you have customers that are coming to you, or you're reaching out and they're paying you and to do the service, and you can focus on other aspects of the business other than just driving the truck and scanning the paperwork, now you have a business. Now you could change your whole operation, get out of the truck. If you are a one-truck operation, hire somebody to drive that truck. Get out of the truck and go out and start making some sales calls. It's a completely different world. But this is the other side of the business that most drivers, most owner-operators, especially if they're leased to a carrier, and I mean, I got to say that it's probably well up in the 90 percentile are using primarily brokers and have no idea how to get direct customers. Almost everyone that I talk to, with the exception of a handful that have come about it a different way, almost everybody is in the process of owning a job, and they don't know the rest of the business, which is the sales and how to get customers, how to bring customers into the business, how to get recognition. We got a lot more to talk about here. We got a kind of a late start due to some technical glitches, so we're going to try to get back on track. So we've talked about identify your client, qualify your client, make sure that they are going to meet your needs, both because they need what you are offering and they have the ability to pay what you need them to pay you. Make sure that they are the company that you want to work for, and then you want to market to them. This is the next step that almost nobody does. This is something that one of the biggest problems that I found in our discussion with the group last week in my company. This is where we fall short as well. The follow-up. You have to follow up with your potential leads. You're going to market. You're going to spend time, money, effort. You're going to be calling people. You're going to be building these websites, sending emails. You got your cards. You're throwing them out everywhere. You're doing all this stuff that you're supposed to be doing, and then you don't call them back. Wait a minute. You're not going to do the follow-up because you forgot? Why? What happened? Why are we not following up? I can tell you this. We made a sale last week. We made a sale. We did a few random cold calls and so forth, and we did actually make a sale. Somebody wanted our services. They said, yes, let's do it. Quote the load. All right, we've got a sale. It was a follow-up call. It was somebody that we had already talked to. We had already established a relationship with. We had marketed to them. We had discussed our services with them. They gave us a bit of an opportunity before, but we couldn't quite meet their needs. But we called them back, and you know what? Do it. Let's get some quotes. Let's see what we can do. So we made the sale, but it was on a follow-up call, and it was on a follow-up call from about 2.5, 3 months ago. Had we not followed up, we would not have gotten the opportunity. Now, granted, it wasn't $1 million sale, but it was a sale. And if we can lock it in, it could be a sale that could be an ongoing weekly, bi-weekly, monthly load that we may have, and we could put it on a consistent basis. We've got some other opportunities with this potential customer, some stuff shipping in from other, even from other countries. It was a sale that not only gets our foot in the door, allowed us to establish and build our relationship. It was all built on a follow-up phone call, could lead to potentially a lot of money, all because we took notes from months ago, flipped through some pages, and called that person back. The follow-ups are crucial. Now, I'm going to go over here. It was a comment on the YouTube stream here. It was from Pamela B. Let me scroll up and see it. Let's see. Sometimes 7 to 10 no's before the yes. Sometimes it's 7 to 10 no's before the yes with one customer. Sometimes you have to follow up 7 to 10 times, and actually the number is about 12. Most customers do not buy until they've been contacted and immersed and followed up with at least 12 times. Now, when I first read that comment, I think that was the way she was going with that. Following up, making contact 7 to 10 times before you get a yes. What I don't want you to mistake that for is that you make 7 to 10 phone calls before you get a yes. Before finally 7 to 10 cold calls, somebody says okay. Because actually that number is a lot higher. It's actually right around 100 phone calls typically you will make 100 phone calls, and out of 100 phone calls, the average is about 2% that'll be a maybe. Not a firm yes, a maybe. It's somebody that'll say, okay, let me see the more options. Give me the quote. Give me some numbers. And I'm willing. Let's do it. Yes, if, but maybe we can work together. Out of 100, 2%. 2 out of 100 are maybes. And those 2 are typically going to be follow-ups, just as the one was that I had just talked about. That was a follow-up call that gave us a maybe. Give us a quote. Final process. You're going to identify the client. You're going to qualify the client. You're going to market to the client. They're going to know you. They're going to love you. And then you're going to follow up with them, which is all part of continual marketing. You're going to follow up, and they're going to give you a maybe, which means you have to close the deal. You have to close the sale, which means you have to give them the ask. I didn't put that in the slide, but that's how typical salespeople will phrase it. You have to ask them for something. You have to ask them to give you money for what you've presented them. You're going to present. You're going to give them the pitch. You're going to identify your client. You're going to pitch to them. You're going to qualify. You're going to market. You're going to follow up. And then you're going to close the sale, which means you're going to ask them to buy from you. The ask is where many people fall short. They're afraid to ask. Afraid to ask for the simple thing that they've been going through all these other steps. You've identified. You've qualified. You've marketed. You've done the follow-ups. You now have weeks, months, several hours invested in this over time. You've built the relationship. They know who you are. All you have to do now is ask them to please buy. Close the deal. Close the sale. Can you do that? Are you ready to do that? Do you know how to do that? And I will tell you this, if you are the type of person that will not give your number to a broker because you're too nervous and you're afraid to ask for the sale, you're afraid to ask a broker to buy your product and give them a quote. You want them to ask you to sell to them. You are in a price tag mentality, which we were talking about before, owning a job. You have to get past that to be able to ask for somebody to give you to make the sale. You have to ask to close. So let's break this down a little bit. How do you identify your client? It's going to be in a few categories. This is one, and for if anybody's watching that was in the room last week, this one was, we talked about this a little after hours. I think it was just me and a couple other people, and I brought this up. There are a couple of different categories that your potential clients will be in. This one right here, industry. The industry. This way. Industry. The ones that make stuff. Their primary job is to make stuff that has to be shipped. Those are your clients. The industry. You want to identify who is making stuff. Why are the people in the industry the ones that you want to target? Because they're the ones that have the least amount of red tape. So what is the other category? Remember I said there's 2 categories? The gem. The commercial market. The gem. Government, education, and medical. You've got the people that make stuff, the industry. The government, the education, and the medical, the commercial field. Now, what's the difference between commercial? Everybody thinks, oh, I want to go after the commercial market. What's the difference between commercial and industrial? The commercial people sit on a board. Think about this. You want to get a government contract. Government contract, you're going to submit a proposal. There's going to be a boardroom of people that are going to weigh the proposal, or they're going to decide if that's something that they want to spend the money on. Education. You're going to submit your proposal to a school board or some board of education or the township hall, and you're going to submit that government, or maybe it's a college, which is also government backed. Remember, these all kind of fall under the government umbrella. So maybe you submit it to the education. It's got to be approved, got to go up the chain, or medical. The doctors. You think they're the ones that make the decisions? They need this EKG machine moved in. Do you think the doctor is the guy you're going to talk to? Probably not. You're probably going to have to talk to the hospital. The hospital is owned by a bunch of investors. The investors, well, they're going to have to get approval from the board. All of the commercial market are the hardest sales to make. Who are the industrial market that you want to go after? You want to go after the mom and pop shops. I should have put that in there. The mom and pop shops that make stuff, not the ones that sit on a board. Let's think about commercial again. The ones that sit on a board. OIDA would fall under commercial. Do you think OIDA's got anything to ship? Nah. How about the ATA? They're commercial. They're in the commercial segment. Do you think they've got anything to ship? Nah. Those two have a lot of red tape. Let's see. Education. Well, all right, so we're going to build a new school. Township. Well, we got to submit that to the town. They're going to have to vote on it. That might be a few months. It's going to be tough. Industry, they make stuff. They make a widget. They want it on the shelf as soon as possible. Maybe they have to get approval from the investors or so forth, but it's going to be quick because they got to get it there. Now, think about this on a smaller level. You go face to face with the decision maker. Who is going to be the easiest decision maker? The industry usually has their tiers of something that they can approve on the spot right now. They have their petty cash funds already laid out. They have protocols for, we need something shipped, let's book it. Industry will have that. You're going to go in and you're going to talk to somebody. You're going to pitch your business, and they're going to say, let's make it happen. If you go into any of those other ones, government, educational, medical, anybody that's worked with the government knows there's a website you got to register for. And actually, people were asking me earlier this year when we had hurricanes coming through, how do I get in on this FEMA stuff? I said, well, it's easy. You're going to go to the website. You're going to fill out these forms. You're going to make sure you're qualified. You're going to go through all this. And you're going to be able to haul for FEMA probably next year. What? A year? It's going to take a year? Probably, because it's government. You're going to have to jump through that red tape. Not saying it's not going to happen, but you got some steep competition because everybody wants to get into this, and it's probably going to be next year. Everything else is the same way. Industry, they make stuff. They want it shipped. They want it shipped now. Those are your targets. Those are your clients that you should be targeting first and foremost. All of the others, they may have needs. They may need your services. They're going to be the hardest to sell. So identify those. That kind of goes into qualifying those. Do they have the financial ability to pay? Do they need you? Those go hand in hand. We talked about this a few minutes ago, but do they have the financial ability? They made stuff. They need to sell stuff, but they haven't sold it yet because it's not on the store shelf. Because it won't be on the store shelf until you haul it, and once it's on the store shelf, then it might take them 60, 90 days to sell your truckload of goods that you hauled to the store. Do they have the money to pay you for your services even if it doesn't sell? You've got to weigh that option. A lot of shippers, now this is where a lot of small carriers and brokers fall into a trap. And I'm going to come back to some of these YouTube comments because I think this is some good stuff. And let's see if I can pull up the phone lines. Okay. Again, phone lines are still open for a few more minutes. Numbers at the bottom of the screen, 917-889-9924. So how do you qualify? Can they pay you if they do hire you? But then, second, before you continue on your long rant and pitch your product, do they even need you? Are you going to waste your time, again, doing all the marketing, sending the emails, designing a website, tailoring it to that industry, only to find out that they don't really need you? So let's go back to this. Now, this is in one of my other slides that I have shown on the show before. People like to work with people they like. That is a huge negotiation tip. People like to work with people they like. Now, If you come in at the negotiation level like most drivers do, you better already have this established. People like to work with people they like. So make sure that they like you. If you're already at that level, when you start, they already need to like you. You don't have a lot of time to build relationships. That's why it seems like those types of negotiations are quick and there's nothing to talk about but money, because you haven't built a relationship. They better already like you. But if you are a salesperson, it's your job to make sure people like you. You have to build that relationship. Nobody's going to buy anything from you if you barge through the door demanding that they buy something, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of carriers do with brokers. They demand, I want you to pay this and detention will be this. And It doesn't work that way. You're trying to sell your services. You have to be likable. Excuse me. People like to work with people they like because there are a lot of people they don't like. They will remember the people they don't like, and they will remember that they'll never work with the people they don't like. So make sure you're likable. You have to build those relationships. So how do you do some of that? Kind of leads into how do you close and how do you give the ask? How do you ask for what you are trying to do? It's all kind of one long process. Again, kind of like riding a bike. You can't just jump on and go. You kind of have to, balance a little and start pedaling and get your speed up. It's all a process leading into the ask, which is how do I close? I'm going to give you a tip right now that is probably one of the most valuable things and easiest ways to remember how to do this. Okay, how to build a relationship. Dress the part. If you walk into a potential client wearing jeans and a ratty old t-shirt, smelling like you haven't had a shower in 4 or 5 days, never brush your teeth, pants have holes in them, looks like you just didn't oil change yourself, you haven't dressed the part. Nothing against changing your own oil, but you have to be somebody that they like. Would you want to do business with you if you were that person? Would you hire somebody that looks, acts, and sounds and dresses and showers, frankly, like you? Do people like you? How hard is it to make friends if you don't dress the part? Meet them at their level. If you're going to go, and this goes into dressing the part, if you're going to walk into a shipping dock, maybe dressed a little like I am now, I've got jeans on, I've got a polo shirt on, unbuttoned, I'm relaxed, but casual, I'm probably at their level. But if I got invited by the CEO of General Motors to go up to the Renaissance Center in Detroit, somewhere on the top level where I'm sure there's some big fancy office and some expensive desk and, things that I couldn't afford, just to look at in the office, this is probably not going to cut it. At that point, consider wearing a suit, dressing up a little nicer. Maybe you're just doing door-to-door sales. Polo like this, you're probably going to meet somebody on the dock. They expect somebody that's a working class. You're working with truckers. Maybe you get your logo on your shirt. Something like that would be fantastic. But you dress the part and meet them at their level. Now, you also want to meet them at their level socially, economically. CEO of General Motors is not at my level economically. How could I do that? How could I show them that I'm worthy of sharing that desk with them. I'm worthy of having that conversation. Again, I'm going to wear the suit. I will enunciate my words. I will speak appropriately. I will not use any cuss words. I will be at their level. Be the expert. This is something that we had some people last week had a bit of a problem with. You own your company. You are the one that has the answers. That means you came through the door as the expert. So, this way. Dress the part. Meet at their level. Dress the part and meet at the level to be the expert. You are the expert because you came to them and you came in with a plate full of answers, right? You came in to ask them to buy something from you, so you better be the expert that they're looking for. Don't come in there, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if that's appropriate. I don't know if I can make that happen. I don't know if I have the solution. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. I don't know if we have the equipment. I don't know if I can make that happen. I don't like to work on Tuesdays. I don't like mountains. I don't like snow because I don't know how to do that. Okay, there's the door. That you have to be the expert. You have to know what you're doing. Solve the problem. How do you know what the problem is? You know what the problem is because you qualified your customer before you came there to give them the solution to their problem. You're going to tell them all of the things that are wrong with their company, and they already know. That's why you're there. That's why they didn't let you in. And you're going to tell them what you can do about it. You're going to solve their problems, and you're going to do it in a way that they cannot resist. You're going to build a golden bridge, another one that comes from my negotiation training. You are going to build the golden bridge so that they can't resist buying from you. You ever watch an infomercial in the middle of the night? Product that you've never heard of before, that you can't possibly imagine ever buying when you first see it? That's absolutely ridiculous. Who would spend $19.99 or whatever on that piece of junk, that plastic thing, and then 30 minutes later, you've got two of them already on the way because you can't do without it because they solve a problem that you may not even have known you had. But if you come into the door and you are the expert, you can solve the problem and they cannot resist. And hopefully Elizabeth is going to get that. Our office phones are in here. Another tip, use the 4 T's. And actually this is 5 T's. But there is one T that I think is the secret sauce. And frankly, if you want to know my secret sauce, you're going to have to come meet me in person. And I can give you all the information. I can tell you how to do it. I can show you. I can give you the training wheels. But I'm going to tell you 4 out of 5. Number 1. Tone. When you call somebody, if they sound like this, you want to make sure that you sound just about like this. Always use the tone. You're going to match the tone. Talked about this in my negotiation training. When you talk about personality types, you want to be the person that they like, which means you want to act and talk like they talk. Tempo. When you meet that fast city slicker and he's talking like this, you want to make sure that you turn around and you are a pretty doggone quick expert because you're going to have to talk just as fast as that person is. You want to go back. You want to have the same tone. You want to have the same tempo. You want to talk quick, that match that tempo to make sure that they are comfortable talking to you. And if they talk this fast, they expect you to know just about how to talk this fast as well. So match their tempo and know the terminology because terminology means everything. So if they talk about their widgets, you better know what their widgets are. You better know all of the things that you can and cannot do. And if you don't know, you better fake it because I promise you, they will pick up on it if you don't know what you're doing. You don't have to know everything there is about the trucking industry, but you better be able to know where to get the answers. Terminology means everything. One of our drivers came in and he was asking one of our agents, well, do you know the difference between pinwheeled and do you know what a slip sheet is? And do you know what this type of equipment is or that type of equipment is? And, you know, frankly, I've been doing this for 21 years now. And there is still equipment out there that I'm not familiar with. There are still solutions out there that I have access to. I know that I could arrange it, but I don't even know exists yet. But you know what? I'll find it if I need it. If I have a customer that says, I need this moved in this certain way, if I have to go hire a manufacturer to build a custom trailer, which happens often, look at windmills. 20 years ago, there was no such thing as wind energy. But now we have custom trailers designed just to haul those blade trailers. And you know what? There was a trucking company that went in and said, you know what? I've got a solution for you. I can design a trailer to make this happen, and we'll do it this way. Finally, take the order. I'm going to have to call that driver back, so we're going to have to cut this short here in a minute. Take the order, which means you have to ask. You have to get the order from your potential client. And again, there is a number 5. Actually, number 4 is number 5. There is another one that goes right in here that I think is probably one of the most valuable sales tools that you can use if you do it right. And maybe some of you know what that is, but it's gold. I'll tell you that. And that's that. All right, so basically, that's the process in a nutshell and how it works. I'm going to scroll through some of these comments here on YouTube. I know there was some things that were pretty good. And let me check and make sure we don't have another call real quick. No, we still have a couple people on the line, but I know we were going way over time here and we got a little bit of a late start. So thank you all for hanging with me. Marketing creates an image. And truck driver survival. I love freight. I love sales. I'd be the best freight agent ever. And I believe that you do have a great attitude for that. I think you would be good. I just don't have, and I know you would love to come work under us. I just don't have the volume of work right now. But, you know, that's something maybe in the future we can make that work. Pamela B., marketing is sharing. Okay, Mason Hart, what do you mean by learning it from the top down? All right, Mason, here's the thing. As I mentioned, most drivers get into this industry as a driver. They move on up the ranks to get their own carrier. Then they want to go out and get customers. They build some relationships, maybe they get some referrals. And I left this part out. Referrals by far and above are the #1 way to get a customer. If you can get a referral from somebody else, that pretty much gives you all the credibility to be the expert and be the solution that somebody else needs. Absolutely, a referral is the #1 way, the best marketing ever. It pretty much cuts through all of the nonsense of relationship building. You've got your in. A referral is by far and above the best way. But if you move up through the ranks and you don't have any contacts and you're starting from the bottom, you're coming in kind of from the back door. That's kind of what I meant by that. You're coming in from a way you haven't learned how to develop a business yet. You haven't learned what you need to do yet. As Stuart said, you don't really run a business, any other business, that way. So you have to learn how to come in the front door of a business. Any other business. I meet more people in the trucking business. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I met somebody that did actually have a business plan. Most people don't have a business plan. Any other industry, you would not find somebody to start a business without a business plan. Most people don't have a marketing plan in place. Most people don't have a sales funnel in place. Most people have never heard of this. By and large, most people don't even have business cards printed. So that's kind of what I mean. A lot of drivers come at this owning a job and never trying to build it as a business, never trying to market, never trying to do sales. So this is completely foreign to a lot of drivers And especially a lot of people that want to be freight brokers, they think the money is easy. And it's not. As Stuart said, you see the tip of the iceberg. You think, and the rumor is that brokers take all this money, and I can tell you from experience, it's not the case. We're looking at moving a load right now. We're going to make, well, I can tell you, okay, a good example. We moved a $9,000 load a few weeks ago, $9,000, and we made about $300 on it after our expenses. And that is my liability. That is something I have to pay out before I get paid back. If the customer pays me at all, you know, I qualified them and I did everything, but $9,000 is a big nut, and we're only going to make a few $100 on that. And it was weeks in the process of getting that load moved. It was a tough one. We're working on a call now from 2.5 months ago.
90 seconds.
2.5 months ago, we made some initial calls. We've sent some emails. We did some follow-ups. We've got several hours, and we spent several more hours Friday getting quotes, getting materials together, getting everything we needed. So now we have probably a couple of days invested in this. Full days, working days, hours. And it's probably going to be about $100 that we might make on this if they even accept our quote. There's not nearly as much money as most people would think. But it could lead to something else. And if it leads to something else, maybe there will be money, but there's no guarantees that it will. We in the sales industry call the follow-up rehashing. We rehash the close. Rehashing or follow-up is part of the 8 steps to success. Step 6 is take control. Chris, send me a message after this. I want to know what process you're looking at here. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. Absolutely. Now, one thing is, I would advise against trying to close a deal on your first contact, on a first call with somebody. The reason is, if you call somebody and you barge through the door and you say, I want you to buy from me. Here's what I've got. Buy it now. Here you go. Why don't you buy it? And then you turn around and you leave and you never even follow up. It's not really going to work out long term. So the best thing is go in, introduce yourself, drop a few cards, and the same process, even if it's on the phone, you're going to call, you're going to introduce yourself, maybe send a follow-up email with your website or a nice graphic email of what you've got. You're going to leave some flyers either electronically or in person, and then you'll follow up a week later, a month later, a couple of months later, and you're going to continue following up. Truck driver survival. Chris says some decision makers are available on the LinkedIn platform. Absolutely. LinkedIn has got some great sales tools. And the other thing that I didn't even get to here, and one other thing here. Alex says, I've been watching you for almost 2 years. I appreciate it. It says, doesn't matter what the broker gets. What matters is what you need for your profits. But if you are the broker and you're making these sales, like a lot of new brokers are trying to do, they have to understand what they're getting into. And if you are a carrier and you're trying to get direct customers to simply cut out the middleman, understand all of the additional risk you take and the potential profits that you may or may not make. Is that potential profit, the $100 more for a particular load, is that worth the extra trouble and headaches of trying to secure that load, taking the credit risk, advancing the money? There's a lot more to it than people see on the surface. Again, Stuart said people see the tip of the iceberg, which is absolutely true. Graphic email got some laughs. But when I say graphic email, I mean if you type it all out and you say, you've got a paragraph of words that's less inviting than if you send a nice HTML graphic like the MailChimp or so forth that's got basically an electronic flyer that you send right in your email. There's a lot of ways to do that. Most drivers may or may not know how to do that. So do some research, figure out how to develop your website and some marketing. All right. We're well into overtime here. I'm going to wrap things up. Thank you all for sticking with me so long. So we've got a lot of callers on the line. I appreciate the support. Again, this process, we could go for hours. I had 5 full days with overtime plus after hours. We had everybody got together for dinner almost every night. We had discussions all day and all night long, developing systems, developing marketing plans, developing a strategy, and it's going to take weeks to even implement the basics of what we discussed. So what I could teach you in an hour and a half roughly is, I mean, I've got some bullet points in. I didn't even elaborate on some of the bullet points that I should have. You have to develop structures. You have to put systems in place. You have to know how to develop what we call the come-up file. In other words, you make your initial contact. You'll build the file on everything that you said. You're going to put it in, and then on such and such date, it'll come up. Time to follow up. You need to do that either manually or there's software that can help you do that. There's calendars. There's CRM systems. Very few carriers, especially 1 or 2 trucks, have a fully functional CRM. We had one when we were, I think, about 3 trucks in. We got our first CRM system. Last week, we decided that we have to completely revamp everything and we're going to go big. We had a very basic level one, which was great for what we were doing. But now, in order to really be successful, we know what we're competing against. We're going to have to put some money. We're going to have to invest in a lot of new systems. We already invested in some new software. We're going to invest in some new cloud-based programs. We've got apps coming. We've got all kinds of stuff that we have to have in place. We have to develop these graphic emails. We have to develop the website a little better. You know, it's not a landing page anymore, but it still needs some time and effort. These things take time. They take money. They take, you know, time is money. So who's going to do it? Are you going to do it while you're driving a truck? Are you going to do it when you should be making sales calls? Are you going to stay up till midnight every day to make this happen? Which I have a lot of late nights. So with that, I've got some drivers to call back. They're probably getting antsy that I'm doing this and not paying attention to them. They're more important. So thank you all for joining me. You're important too, but they pay me. So thank you all for your support. I appreciate you sticking with us late tonight. Looking at the calendar, we've got 2 weeks until Christmas. I will be live next week, but obviously the Tuesday after that is Christmas Day. So we'll do one next week. I've got some other things. If anybody has any things that they would like to see a show on, drop it in the comments and we'll get that up in a future show. And the following week is Christmas. The following week after that is New Year's. So we will not have a show for 2 weeks. I will be live next week on the 18th, December 18th, 2018. The 25th and the 1st of January, we will not have a show. So we will be back after that on the 8th. So with that, everybody, have a good night. Thanks for your support. Thanks for hanging out with us. And remember to dream big, aim high, strategize your plan. More so than ever, you gotta have a strategy for this sales stuff. Strategize your plan. Earn your success, because nobody's going to give this stuff to you unless you want to pay them as a broker. Nobody's going to give it to you. Strategize. And I've got one more call. We're going to take one more call. Welcome to the show. How can we help you? Hello, 816 area code.
Oh, hey, Kenny. Jimmy Norris.
Oh, hey, Jimmy.
Here. How are you? Hey, I just kind of wanted to go back on the sales calls. Just the fact that there's a lot of gatekeepers when you first start making sales calls, what people call gatekeepers. You might go 10 times and not talk to the person that's actually the decision maker, but it just takes keep calling.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of tricks to getting around the gatekeeper. There's a lot of ways to get through the gatekeeper, and I didn't even want to get into all that. You know, I'm already well over time, but the gatekeeper is huge. Getting past the gatekeeper is the biggest hurdle, and there are a lot of tips and tricks. Maybe next week that's something that we can talk about.
Okay, will do.
All right, thanks.
I'll start being a contributor more often.
I appreciate it, Jimmy. And I know you've got some experience with some of this. You did several calls. You had a lot of direct customers lined up. So I appreciate the contribution. Sorry to get to you so late. You got to call in earlier. I'm going to have to start cutting these phone lines off a little earlier. But with that, everybody, again, dream big, aim high, strategize your plan, earn your success, because only you drive you. Have a good night, everybody.